Good morning, YouTube, and welcome back to the farm. Today we're working on the Corvette again, and I'm doing the weather stripping on the roof. Now I've gone and test fitted both of these pieces of new rubber, and these are a far cry from the crumbling mess that I ended up having to scrape out. And the important thing is, when you take the old stuff out, you've got to get every single little tidbit of what was left out of there, so that your what do you call it, the adhesive does its job. And this has been a little bit more involved task than I expected. And of course, there goes the phone. Anyway, this is going together, and I'm going to do it today. And as you may or may not have heard from the previous videos, whoever it was that did this job before used way too much adhesive. And I'm going to show you how to use adhesive the right way for weather stripping. It really doesn't take much, but there is a process to it. Now, the other thing I've done to this is I've gone and torn the headliner out. The headliner in this thing was just nasty. It was falling apart. It was resting on your head inside the car. You go and flick it and all sorts of dust would go and rain out of it. And yeah, it seriously needed to be redone. So I've gone and taken this out, and I've removed all of the old black fabric off of it. And what I'm left with is a really dusty backing board that I had to clean up both sides of it to get rid of all of the dusty stuff. And I'm still trying to decide if I want to reuse this or not. I can, but I don't have to. I've got an insulation pad and stuff to put in there to reduce the amount of heat, and we're going to go and put the fabric on. However, you get to see that in the next video, or one of the videos after this. But anyway, let's get to working on this weather stripping and get this stuff installed so it can go and start drying, so I can get to the next part of refurbishing the roof. Now we're at the point where I'm going to go and start gluing these things in. Now I've test fit these to make sure that they would fit where they need to go, and make sure I've got them in the right orientation. And I'm about ready to apply some glue. Now, this black weather strip adhesive is some really sticky stuff. And I found out you don't have to use very much of this at all. In fact, use very little of it. And we're going to go and put a very small bead on here. And I mean very small bead. Really small bead. And then use something like a popsicle stick to spread it out. I've got chopsticks. They'll work in a pinch. And you're going to take that small bead and you're going to smear it around so that it covers quite a bit more. And it looks like it's going to be on too thin, but don't worry, it won't be. And you let that sit for a minute and let it get tacky. And you go and do the same thing over here, right down the middle, a really small bead of this stuff. Does not take much. And then you go and you spread that around a little bit. Again, it's going to look like there's not enough, but there will be. Okay, now that that's not tacky, we're going to go and put another very small bead right down the middle. And leave that squishy. And now we're going to start putting this where it belongs. And it's going to take a little muscle to get it started. And then you go and take an old school, one of these old things that, key rings that's sort of blunt, and you go and use that to punch it in there. And you're probably going to want to use one that you're not going to worry about getting gooey stuff on, because you will get some gooey stuff on it. You shove it in there good. Make sure it's seated all the way in there. And I'm not going to say this is easy, because it's not. You got to get it all the way down into a little slot there. And push it back. Now, I've got one side, one little clip of that thing in there. Now I get to flip it over. This is where you got to work kind of fast, because now it's starting to set up. You want to make sure this is set all the way down in there with this little piece. And even though I thought I got it in there, it's not. And you'll tell it goes in about 1/4 of an inch further than you thought once you get that thing set down in that slot. Boy, it's hard to show, but once you start doing it, you'll see what I'm talking about. That rubber has to sit down in that little slot. Now, I see part of it's already coming apart. There we go. It's getting set in there. Now there's a screw that I have to put on this end. There we go. Now that that's put together, I'm going to take a little bit more of this stuff and hit the corner. Now that everything's aligned, I'm going to bend it up a little bit. Put less than you need, because when you squish it down, it'll squish everywhere. Probably need a clamp for that. Got an old pair of vice grips here. There we go. That'll stay there. You might want to go and do a little bit on this other end. Again, put less than you think you're going to need. Nope, that's in there. That's not going anywhere. I think I got it right. That was not easy. Took a minute. Yep, it looks like it's all in. And we're back. Now that we've waited a while, we're going to go after this second piece and start installing it. And like I said, we already test fitted it, made sure it's going to go where we think it's going to go, and let's get started. We're going to go and put a real small bead right down the middle. And spread it out. Spread it out nice and thin. Then we're going to do the same thing here. Take our little stick here, spread it around, make it nice and thin. A little bit of coverage there. That's already gotten tacky because it's awfully warm out here. I'm going to go and put another real small strip of it there. And this is flipped upside down, so we're going to take the bottom part of it and put that in first. Or at least try to. Gonna slip that in a little slot. We're gonna go in to get it engaged in that slot in the bottom first. Try to anyway. Which is actually the top. And we're gonna take our key fob here, make sure that's all the way down. And we're done. I am drenched in sweat. It's about 103 degrees out here in the barn. And I'm gonna let this stuff set up. This black weather stripping adhesive is some really good stuff. And if you use it correctly, it works wonderfully. If you put too much on, boy, it's a nightmare to get off. Hopefully, whoever it is has to do this job again next time won't be so inconvenienced as I was. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on the farm this morning, getting this weather stripping finished. Next, I can go and do the headliner so we can get this thing put back on the car. Come back and see us.